Hi, it's Dre Griggs with Obsidian Wisdom. Today we discuss maximizing Social Security at 62. Ever wonder if collecting Social Security at 62 is a smart move or a costly mistake? Today we'll go over some of the pros, the cons, all the information that you need to help you make an informed, wise decision. We'll probably even cover a couple of surprises along the way that I think a lot of people overlook. So when it comes to figuring out Social Security, I am going to share my whiteboard with you. And we're going to go through some of the information to help you make an informed decision. First and foremost, we can start collecting Social Security at the age of 62. 62 is going to be the earliest that you can receive Social Security. I'll put a link to another video where I go through having the 40 credits and showing that you actually qualify for Social Security. But 62 is going to be the earliest for most of you. For most of you, your full retirement age, where you collect full Social Security, that is going to be 67. That is your full retirement age. The reason I say for most of you is because this number can vary. Our government started noticing that people were living longer. And with the fear of people living longer, they're like, hey, I don't know if we have enough money for Social Security. And then you always kind of have the same two questions. You're like, do I raise taxes? Do I reduce the benefit? And they said, how about we reduce the benefit, but to make sure nobody's mad, we'll have the benefits get reduced in like 50 years. And so that way, everyone who's here today is getting to like, oh, that's fine, no problem whatsoever. But now it's currently at the 67 because it's been the steady increase. So I'll place a chart up so you can see what it is, but that's why I say for most of you. And then your absolute end of the line date is going to be 70. So 70 is max Social Security. You can't get any more money than what you receive at 70. And this is important because sometimes we're like, well, if I don't collect anything at any point in time, will it just keep going up? No, it won't keep going up. And then the question is, well, Dre, how much money are we talking about when you say I wait until full retirement versus starting a little bit early? And we'll go through that as well. It's important to note that if you take advantage of Social Security at the absolute earliest, at 62, then you're going to have a reduced benefit compared to your full retirement age and even the max Social Security. So then the question becomes, all right, Dre, if I'm going to receive a lesser amount, why would someone do that? And I'm glad you asked. There's a couple of things. The first is from a mathematical equation, we have to live long enough to receive and recoup that benefit. So every single year that we don't collect Social Security, that is one additional year of income that we would be needing to recover on the back end, where we have the increased amount, but are we going to live long enough? So if you're someone who has health concerns, where maybe you had a heart attack or dealing with cancer, or you have treatments and different things, maybe family history is something that is a little bit of a concern for you, any of these would be a reason someone might say, you know what? I think it makes sense for me to go ahead and start collecting Social Security at 62. On the other end, we'll say that I have a grocery list of goals that I want to accomplish, things I want to do with my retirement. And as someone who just was celebrating my oldest daughter's birthday, I had my 4 girls, and then my oldest daughter brought 3 of her roommates from college. So I had 7 girls in the house, and we went shopping, and we bought a long grocery list of stuff. So if you're someone who has a big list of exciting things you want to do in retirement, it might make sense to allow Social Security to help pay for some of these things. You all know that I'm a big fan of goals. I'm a goal-based planner. Very fancy way of saying that. For me, it's not necessarily the money that you want, it's what you want to do with the money that I spend a decent amount of time focusing on. I think goals can help pull us through some of those difficult times that we're dealing with right now, some of that volatility. It also can help us to really take a step back and say, actually, I don't want to spend any money on that thing. I have this future plan, this future goal, this future vision that I'm working towards. And when you have that, I believe it helps you to make better financial decisions in the short term, because ultimately, I think most of the things we already know. We know what it takes to have more money. We know what it takes to be a healthier person. We know to have more money, we have to spend less than what we make. We have to invest the money that we're not spending, and we have to allow our money to keep growing until it can buy all of our freedoms. And we call that financial freedom, or we call that retirement. Just like if I want to be healthy, I know that I can't be eating s'mores with my kids over the weekend. Guilty as charged. But I know that I should be more active, and that if I move for 20 minutes a day outside, if I meditate, I lower my stress, and I eat more fruits and vegetables. Again, we all already know what it takes. But we're not doing it. And so that's why I do think goal planning is really important. So I'll get off my soapbox. Let's go ahead and get started. And when you're talking about coming up with the mathematical understanding of whether it's a good idea for me to take Social Security at 62, let's start with a little case study. So at 62, you would be receiving, let's say, about $1,400 from Social Security. And if you're receiving about $1,400 from Social Security, I'll pull out my calculator, 1,400 times 12, that would be $16,800. So that's what I will receive every single year. So up here, we're going to keep track. This will be our little tracker. So at 62, I would receive that 16,800. And at 63, 64, man, that 4 is messed up. So let me go ahead and let me clean that because it's going to drive me crazy. So not at 64, I'm going to go back. I'm going to remove that one. Okay. All right. So then we have 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70. All right. So I'm not going to write the number on it because we know that that's just what happens. So I receive that every single year. Well, if I am someone who is going to wait until my full retirement age of 67, I'll put FRA. So my full retirement age of 67, I would receive $2,000. So if I wait until 67, I would receive $2,000. Well, if I'm going to receive $2,000, what is the additional benefit that I would receive? You're right. It would be $600. Right. So if I took 2,000, I subtracted it from 1,400, that means I would receive an extra $600 every single month. So the question then becomes, from a mathematical perspective, is that a good decision for me? And again, I'm glad that you asked. And what we'll do is we will take how much we would receive each year. So 16,800, and we multiply that by 5. That's the 5 years that I would have received that I did not receive. So that would be $84,000. That is 16,800 times 5. So that is how much I would have received from 62, 63, 64, 65, 66. At 67, I'm going to receive the 2,000 a month. So that's why we didn't count 67. If I take that $84,000 and then that's how much I did not take, I would then say, all right, well, the additional amount I'd receive is $600. So you would take your $84,000 and you would divide it by $600, and then that would give you 140. So that is 140 payments that I would need to receive to equal the $84,000 that I did not take those first 5 years. I would then divide that number, of course, by 12. So I'm going to divide that number by 12, and then that would give me 11.6. So I'm just going to say 12 years. Right, we're not going to do the decimals today. So we're just going to say 12 years. That means that I would need to make sure that I receive 12 years of payments for that to be a financially sound decision, just financial. We're going to go into the other aspects of making this decision. We're just focusing right now on the financial. So from a financial perspective, at 67, when I start receiving my $2,000 a month, I would need to receive payments at least until 79 years of age for this to make sense for me. As long as I'm able to do that, which I tell most people, you just really have to be around for a decade. It's normally right around 80 to 82 for most of us, the calculation will work out. As long as that works for me, then I'm going to say, you know what, I'm good to go. I have no concerns. For those that are wondering, the average American male lives to about 74 years of age. The average American female lives to about 78 years of age. So you'd have to have above average life expectancy. Now, with that said, the numbers show that if there's a couple where both of you are 65, there is a 50% chance that one of the two of you will make it to 90. Now, there's a 20% chance that one of the two of you will make it to 95. And so we're not simply saying that, hey, no, this will never work for anyone. Everyone should take Social Security early. We're simply saying that it is a mathematical equation, and you can see how to calculate that equation. Now, if you're someone who said, you know what, Dre, I think I actually want to wait till 70, how would that look? Well, I'm glad you asked. If you could expect to have around, it was like $2,480. Man, that 8 is messed up. $2,480. So we'll end up doing the same game. And so we would say $2,480 minus the $1,400 would give us, so I'm going to say that minus the $1,400 would give us $1,080. So that is what my additional benefit is going to be. But instead of us retiring at our full retirement age, we're now retiring at 70. And so that increases the amount of years that we would be foregoing without a payment. So we're not going to take a payment at 67 now, or 68, or 69. We're going to wait till 70 to start Social Security. So I now will go ahead and I will do the math, and I will take my normal payment of $16,800. That's if I started early at 62. And then I would multiply that by 8. And then that would give me $134,400. And then we're going to now divide that by our 1,080, because that's the difference now. And then that would give us 124.4. And then you would divide that by 12, and it would give you 10 years. So 10.3. So let's say roughly 10 years. So I'll put years so that you can remember that we're talking about years there. And that this is payments. So I'm going to write payments just so that we're on the same page. All right, so you can see that the amount of payments that I need to now decreases because I'm receiving a larger amount. The difference is larger. So now you can see from my calculations that it's 10 years. So we're still right around the 80, 79, 80, 81, right around there, that we generally speaking, that's going to be our break-even point. That is when it's just a purely mathematical calculation where it makes financial sense for me to go ahead and start taking my Social Security early versus later. If I plan on being around well past 80, then waiting might make sense for me, purely from a life expectancy mathematical equation. If I don't plan on being around past 80, if I think I'm going to be around the average or even slightly earlier than the average, then it would make sense to start early. I'm actually going to move myself over here. And what we're able to now, let's just go ahead and have the conversation. If you are trying to figure out when is it smart to wait, let's give 3 reasons it will be smart to wait. Number 1, we just talked about longevity. If I am confident that we have family that just lives forever, everybody's 110 years old, it's just in our genes, no one can do anything about it. If that's the case, then waiting is probably going to be in your best interest, because you end up receiving about an 8% increase in what your monthly payment would be every year that you don't have to take the money out. And for many people, that is something that is very beneficial. That when you're looking at your investments, when you're in your 60s, that you probably have a slightly safer investment allocation, and you most likely aren't going to be getting that 8%. Now you might, and if you are, that's great. But if you're not, this might be the best return that you get on your money. The second reason is we are still working. And if we are still working, we have a few things working for us. Naturally, we don't have the financial strain where, even though some people like the idea of waiting to take Social Security, we have to have some income in place to bridge that gap. We normally call those your bridge years. From 62 to 65 or 62 to 70, we normally call that your bridge years. If you stop working and you didn't have the income coming in, do you have a form of income to fund your retirement until 70 so that you can receive the extra Social Security benefits? Now, if the answer is yes, then you can at least consider waiting. And then if you're working, then that normally gives you that flexibility to say, yeah, I don't need to take it out. I'm still working. I don't need the money. Now, some people will say, look, I'm going to take it out because I have the longevity concern. I've been paying into it for a very long time, Dre, and I don't want Uncle Sam to just keep all the money that I've been paying in, which is a very fair statement. But what we are simply saying that is if you are still working and you also feel comfortable from a longevity standpoint, then waiting might be the best option for you. And then number 3 would be our spouse. So we mentioned that we will talk about some of those surprises, and your spousal benefits is one of those surprises. So when you're talking about your spousal benefits, what we're really talking about is they normally have access to about half of what your benefits are, or at least the high income earner member of the family's benefits. So if your spouse isn't working and their benefits aren't as high as yours, then how much you're able to achieve can impact how much they can have if something happens to you first. Because what ends up happening is a lot of time our retirement, it's based on two income sources. And we plan on having both of our incomes, right? Well, but then something happens to one of us and we only have one income stream now. Wouldn't it be nice to choose an income stream that is larger for our spouse so that that way they can maintain the lifestyle? It's not to say that they may not want to downsize, because they may. It's not to say they may not want to move somewhere, because again, they may. But at least they don't have to do it because they can't stay in the house anymore. And so when you're talking about 50% of the benefits, right, we can just go through the numbers that we have. And let me go ahead and remove that number right there so that we have the space to work. But you can see that we have, I'm going to remove this one because we're going to work through that number too. But you can see that we have that $1,400 that you are able to receive at 62. Well, 50% of that is $700. So $700 a month where our spouse, again, if we make it to 67, then 50% of that would be $1,000. And if you were able to make it to 70, I'm just going to do the 2,500 just to make my life easier. They'll receive $12,500. And now when you're looking at these differences, you can see that there's a pretty noticeable difference where our spouse are receiving $300 more every single month, which is an extra $3,600 a year that our spouse is able to receive. And then if you're able to wait till the full retirement age, where we're able to make it to 70, you can see that that ends up giving your spouse an additional $550 every single month, which is a pretty nice piece of change. And then when you have $550 a month, that then ends up giving us an extra $6,600 a year for our spouse, where they're only going to receive one of the two in most situations as far as Social Security income, but we gave them the option to choose ours where it's a higher amount. Where we had the 2,000, but maybe they had 800 on their own, well, they lose the 2,000 and then they're not going to take advantage of our spousal benefits, because if we started at 62, they're only going to receive 700. So that's less than what they would receive on their own, but they can receive an additional 200 to an additional $450 by having our spouse go a little bit later. And sometimes what we end up doing is we'll sit there with our spouse and we decide who gets the income early. So maybe the lower income spouse goes early, and then we use our other investments so that the higher income spouse can wait till 70. And then now we're able to set up our surviving spouse in a very beneficial way. And so that's normally something that I think we often overlook, but it is a part of the calculation. It's not the whole calculation, but it is a part of the overall calculation. And so normally these are some of the questions that I would ask when I'm trying to figure out what makes the most sense, what is going to be the best decision for me. And so when I'm looking at these questions, I'm definitely going to ask, what is my health like? Am I active? Do I move a lot? Do I eat the fruits and vegetables? Do I have good health overall? My blood pressure and different things. Like, what is my health like? What is our family history like? Next, I'm going to ask the question of, do we need the income now? If we need the income now, then a lot of this is not needed to be calculated. If we need the income, we need the income. It just is what it is. If I need the money where we're not able to afford our lifestyle, afford our retirement, and it's not even a question of health, it's just a question of enjoying ourselves, living a fulfilling retirement, then let's go ahead and get the income now. Let's have the fulfilling retirement. And then the third thing that we normally ask, and hopefully you saw here as well, is what is my break-even point? I should know how much it is costing me every year that I'm waiting, and I should know at what point will I receive all of that money back, because I'm receiving an 8% increase each year that I wait. And then that is that much more money that I receive. It's a larger return, and then it changes the calculation. But generally speaking, I tell people, normally, if you don't even want to do the math, just estimate around 80 years old. Do I expect to be around longer than 80? Then you would be saying, you know what, it's probably going to make the most financial sense for me. If it's less than 80, then we would be saying it may not make the best financial sense for us. But those are normally the things that I would be looking at. And hopefully what you're really noticing is it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. I know that they make it sound very easy where everybody needs to wait, or everybody needs to go early, or everybody needs to start at 67. But hopefully what you noticed is it really depends on each of our own unique situations. Is my health good? Am I traveling? Am I living? Is my spouse? How much is their income? Am I worried about them if something happens to me? There's so many things that go into this calculation where it's very hard to just tell someone you have to do it one particular way. As the old African proverb says, guessing is cheap, but guessing wrong can be expensive. And we don't want to be guessing when's the best time for you to take your Social Security. We want to have a mathematically sound decision-making process that lets me know comfortably that we have planned for retirement and our Social Security in a way that maximizes the benefits for me and my family. If you found value in this video, or if you would like to have a discussion on our Social Security income, I do invite you to click a link in the show notes. You can get some time on my calendar, and we can discuss Social Security when you should take it out, be a complimentary discussion. You can also consider getting a copy of my Wealthy Retirement Wisdom book. If you are interested, you can find a link in the show notes to the Amazon store. If you've already read it, I would love to get your review as well. I'll put a link for you to be able to do that too. Until next time, I'm always thankful for our time together. I don't take it for granted, and I appreciate you being here with me. If there's anything I can do for you, ask me in the comments. Until next time, it's Dre Griggs with Obsidian Wisdom. Stay safe and enjoy life.